Jet Set Radio video, I knew the next game I wanted to tackle was another Sonic game, but I wasn't exactly sure which one. My first thought was to analyse the PS2 and Wii version of Sonic Unleashed, since that game is so different from the 360 and PS3 version, but it feels a bit soon. I definitely want to tackle that game because honestly there's some aspects of it that are actually better than the next gen versions, but right now I feel like I want to explore a completely different Sonic game, not just a different version of a game I've already covered. A few things flew through my head: Sonic Generations, Sonic Heroes, maybe even tackle the adventure games, but these are all games that are done to death, with everyone and their dentist having made videos on them, so I was kind of a bit stuck. Eventually I started dividing the games into categories to choose from. Okay, so do I want to go for one of the classic games, one of the adventure era games, one of the dark age games, or one of the meta era games? And it was when I was listing off the dark age games that it hit me. Originally I always said Sonic Unleashed was the last dark age game, but there was another game, a game released in 2009, a game I had completely forgotten about. Sonic and the Black Knight. It honestly still perplexes me how I managed to just completely block this game out of my memory for so long, because despite what you might think from the fact I'd just forgotten the game existed, I have a lot of nostalgia for this one. I was gifted the game for my birthday near the time it came out, and as a child it just pulled me in. Up until this point, the Sonic games I played were games like Sonic Unleashed and the Sonic Rush games, all of which took place within Sonic's respected world and had a pretty consistent tone when put next to each other. Like, yeah, Unleashed is way darker and more in-depth than the Sonic Rush games, but they all take place in Sonic's world with bright and inviting themes. But Sonic and the Black Knight had a different effect on me. From looking at the cover alone, I felt a different type of interest in the game. Things didn't look bright and familiar, they looked dark and gritty. Sonic looked serious, and with the new sword he was sporting, aggressive. He looked far less approachable than I was used to, like he was on edge, in an unknown world. Now realistically, my futile child brain just looked way too much into the box art of a Sonic game, but for me back then, the game instantly gave off a different vibe to what I was used to. And when booting up the game and actually playing it for the first time, I found my initial predictions to be right. This was a different type of Sonic game. Where are the rings, the loops, the bright and colourful levels? This world seems gritty, mysterious, and most of all, unfamiliar, and nothing proves me right more than the opening cutscene. This instantly sets the tone for the game and truly kicks off that feeling of an unknown world. The intro begins with not one recognisable character or set piece in sight. We see a mysterious girl running away from a menacing looking man and a small army of strange creatures. The woman, seemingly in severe trouble, uses some sort of spell to call a hero from a different world to come and help her, and this is what she gets. Sonic is literally thrown into the world and faceplants the ground. This is a perfect scene, because we are Sonic. We have been thrown into this world out of nowhere and are just completely out of place. This intro cutscene as a whole is great. Not only does it solidify that out of place feeling we've been having by showing us, yes, this is a completely different world and Sonic is completely out of place, literally falling out of the sky and faceplanting in the dirt, but also Sonic is characterised so well. Despite Sonic falling into this world and faceplanting in the ground, he instantly gets up to catch his chili dogs. What a guy. As soon as he's done that, he quickly surveys his surrounding, sees the danger and the girl in distress, and instantly just springs into action, wiping out the enemies without even thinking. This just shows us clearly how Sonic has a good heart. He sees someone in trouble and leaps into action instantly, all while having that cocky attitude he's known so well for. After finishing off the mysterious creatures, Sonic sees the main menacing figure and heads straight for him, only to be stopped by the girl and quickly transported to an unknown location. We then see the mysterious figure approach what appears to be Shadow, Blaze and Knuckles. He tells them to find Sonic and the girl and kill them on sight. What an opening. So I've talked about how Sonic is represented well and true to his character, and I've talked about how the intro gives off this mysterious, eerie, alone atmosphere, but to truly take that feeling even further, we now see that mysterious characters that appear to look like Sonic's friends are looking for him to kill him. So we went from feeling out of place and alone to finally seeing familiar faces, only to be shown that they are out hunting for Sonic with instruction to kill him on sight. This is a pretty dark atmosphere for a Sonic game to open with. Shadow the Hedgehog's intro was stupid because it was just desperately trying to be dark and edgy for no actual reason. There was no depth there. But in Black Knight's intro, there's no in-your-face over-the-top edginess to desperately try and convince you the game is serious. It's just an eerie, unknown setting with a group of eerie, unknown characters, and it speaks for itself. It feels cold and unknown, with the dark sky and the gritty dirt. The world feels oppressive, tired and dull, a sharp contrast to Sonic. Speaking of which, while the world is dark and gloomy, Sonic stays true to himself, getting up and helping someone in distress, all while keeping that cocky charm he's so well known for. Unlike Shadow the Hedgehog, where they portrayed Shadow as overly angry to simply match with the environment, in Black Knight's intro, Sonic stays true to himself throughout and acts how you would expect him to. He's our one familiarity to latch onto. This world is dark and unknown, but Sonic is bright and familiar. To truly top off this perfect intro is the scene of Shadow, Knuckles and Blaze, just showing us the true brutality of this world. You can't trust what you think you know. People are not how you remember them in this world. For me as a kid, this intro was incredible and sucked me into the game's world completely. I had just never seen anything like it from a Sonic game. I'd never seen Sonic in a setting like this. Some of you may point to the other storybook Sonic games, Sonic and the Secret Rings, but I played Black Knight first, and also Secret Rings world is much more bright and colourful compared to Black Knight. Shit, yeah, that's something I need to talk about there quickly, the storybook series. The storybook series is something Sonic and the Black Knight and Sonic and the Secret Rings are labelled as. The idea was for the storybook games to be a Sonic spin-off series where Sonic travelled to different storybook worlds like the Arabian Nights and the Knights of the Round Table. The series was cancelled after Black Knight's negative reception, but I thought it's worth to note quickly here for the context of this game. I never got far in Black Knight as a kid, but I really can't reiterate how much the game managed to suck me in like no other Sonic game had before. It was the mystery and maybe slight fear of it all. The environments were misty and gloomy, the buildings were realistic and stern, everything looked so serious, and you just didn't know what was around the corner. This wasn't Sonic's world, so we have no expectation for what we will face. It could be anything. But I've established that Black Knight sucked me in. Let's actually get into one of the strongest points for the game, the story.
Oh, I get it. No problem. I'm used to stuff like this.
The story for Black Knight is something that in my opinion is severely overlooked when talking about the best Sonic stories. People bring up games like Unleashed and the adventure games, but Black Knight is never talked about, and it's a shame because the story for this game is very good. So I've already talked about the intro in the first section of this video, but that was more on how it created an atmosphere, not so much on how it actually contributed to the narrative. Essentially, Sonic is called upon by a girl named Melina who is fleeing from the Black Knight and his army of creatures. Concerned, she goes to her last resort and uses a spell to call a hero from another world who can save her, and that hero is Sonic. After Sonic easily defeats the group of enemies surrounding Melina, he then heads for the Black Knight but is stopped by Melina and transported to another location with her. Melina then explains that the mysterious Black Knight is King Arthur, who has been corrupted by the immortality that Excalibur's scabbard provides. Now this may seem like a strange idea, King Arthur being corrupted by a sacred sword's scabbard, but this game is set in the world of Arthurian legend, and this is actually accurate to the legend the game is based off. In the legend of King Arthur, the story actually is that Excalibur's scabbard did provide the person who wielded it with immortality on the battlefield, so while it may seem as a weird plot device, it's actually accurate to the legend the game is based off. Anyway, Melina explains how the kingdom is in ruin as King Arthur has become evil, and to return it to peace, Sonic must defeat King Arthur. It is also revealed that Melina is the granddaughter of the wizard Merlin, which is a nice unique spin on the legend and explains why Melina can perform spells and look so wizardy. Now, first thing to establish is how the game's story is presented through cutscenes. While the intro was a detailed CGI cutscene, the actual cutscenes throughout the game are presented in this aged storybook aesthetic. Now, while personally I would have preferred just normal in-game cutscenes, I understand that this is a spin-off game with a lower budget, and the way the cutscenes are presented is still great. It fits in perfectly with the world of King Arthur. The way they are drawn is definitely an improvement compared to Sonic and the Secret Ring cutscenes, which used a similar style for cutscenes, but they didn't look nearly as nice. The Black Knight cutscenes actually have very limited animation and are pretty static, but all the cutscenes have this effect of adding visual noise around the characters in certain environments to make everything pop and truly look alive. It's a really subtle effect, but crazy how much more lively it makes the cutscenes feel. However, for where the cutscenes lack visually, they more than make up for it in the audio department, because this is Jason Griffith's last game where he is Sonic, and at this point he had almost perfected the character. Sonic, in my opinion, sounds better in Black Knight than any other game to date. This, in my opinion, is truly Sonic's voice at his absolute best. Sonic doesn't overemphasize things anymore, and there's a perfect balance of emotion, cockiness, approachableness, aggression, and a hint of arrogance in his tone. He sounds great, and Jason Griffith's delivery of his lines are perfect. Here's a few examples of when Sonic really sounds great in this game.
Why'd you stop me? I could have taken him down, no problem.
You do not understand. He cannot be wounded.
How can that be? What are we waiting for? Let's go pay her a little visit.
I fear it may not be as simple as that.
What do you mean?
You shall see for yourself. Onward, my young knave.
Stop calling me Knave! I'm Sonic the Hedgehog!
Very well then, I shall call you Knave the Hedgehog.
Whatever, you oversized letter opener. Wow. So he was one of the Knights of the Round Table?
The mightiest of all, and the closest to King Arthur. It was mere luck that enabled you to defeat him.
If you say so.
Why did you not deal him the final blow?
Huh?
Such sympathy is an insult to a knight.
Huh, what's the big deal? Besides, I got this, didn't I?
Anyway, Sonic is told by Merlina he needs to defeat King Arthur to free the kingdom. But how? I mean, we've already established that King Arthur can't actually be slain due to Excalibur's scabbard. Well, first thing we need is a sword. Merlina instructs us that beyond Misty Lake there lies a sacred sword Sonic can wield. Now, the sword. In terms of design and relevance in the plot, it's great. It's another sacred sword that can fight back against King Arthur's, and the fact that Sonic can use it so well from the offset shows his potential as a knight. However, the sword can also talk. Yeah, a bit out of nowhere, but the sword can talk. Now, while the idea is quite strange, I actually think it was a good idea in the long run, because both the sword and Sonic have an attitude and they clash.
That's kinda sorry looking.
Fool!
The dynamic of Sonic and the sacred sword Caliburn is very amusing. The two constantly bicker and argue, but over time they gradually befriend each other, and by the end of the game, Sonic has earned the sword's respect. Wow, that's a weird sentence to say out loud. The fact that the sword talks is strange, but there is reasoning behind it. It's to essentially have some sort of friend for Sonic to have on his adventure, and to show how Sonic learns to become a true knight. Caliburn is more of a sidekick and friend to Sonic than Merlina is for sure. The dialogue in levels and cutscenes never gets annoying for me and overstays its welcome. For me, a lot of it was genuinely funny. Anyway, after acquiring the sacred sword Caliburn, we head to the blacksmith in town to sharpen our sword, and when we get there, it's revealed that the blacksmith is Tails. Well, kind of. It's not actually Tails, but it looks like Tails. Casting Tails as a blacksmith was a perfect fit, and it's great to see another friendly, recognisable face. After sharpening the sword at the blacksmith's, we head towards the Lady of the Lake, but are stopped by the first of the three knights, Sir Lancelot, aka Shadow. There's not much to talk about with this fight in the story section of the video, as the majority of stuff I want to say about it is to do with the gameplay, but I will say that Sonic's characterization in the fight is fucking perfect yet again. Merlina says we must visit the Lady of the Lake, who will be able to tell us how we can actually defeat King Arthur, so we head there. When arriving, we see another friendly, recognisable face, being Amy Rose. This is something that the previous storybook game did as well. In Secret Rings, you would meet new characters in the game portrayed with recognisable characters. For example, Knuckles was Sinbad. Well, Black Knight does the same thing. Amy Rose is the Lady of the Lake. Even though she doesn't recognise you, it's such a breath of fresh air to see a recognisable friendly face who wants to help you in this mysterious world. Yeah, Merlina does appear to be your friend and is seemingly looking out for you, but firstly, we don't really know her, and secondly, when I was younger, something always just felt a bit off with her, like she didn't really have my back and I was in this on my own. Yeah, that's a pretty big thing to infer as a kid, and I honestly don't know why, but she always just gave me a weird vibe. I think one time that stood out for making me weary was when we complained about the target practice being too easy and she sends us a fucking dragon. She never does anything wrong throughout the initial game, but just the way she acts with Sonic feels a lot less warm compared to someone like Chip in Sonic Unleashed, who always looked out for you and seemed enthusiastic with what you're doing and the plot in general. Merlina seems a lot more quiet and melancholy, and in hindsight, I think that was all intentional from the writers, but we will get to that later in the video. Anyway, when meeting the Lady of the Lake, Sonic's reaction is perfect.
I've been waiting for you, knight from another world.
Whoa!
Fool, where are you going?
But that's...
You are being rude to the Lady of the Lake. Bow your head.
That's just a common theme with this game. Sonic's character is written so well. I already said that Sonic is at his best in terms of voice, but I also think in terms of characterization he is as well. The Lady of the Lake tells Sonic that she will only assist him if he can prove himself as a true knight, and presents him with 3 tests. First, to free the innocents from King Arthur's dungeon. Second, to offer compassion to those in need. And third, to defeat King Arthur's Knights of the Underworld. Sonic is given 3 days. After defeating the Knights of the Underworld around the kingdom and freeing the innocents from the dungeon, Sonic heads back towards the Lady of the Lake, but on his way is stopped by a crying child who tells Sonic about her village being attacked by a dragon. Sonic, without even thinking, heads straight towards the village to help them out. Caliburn tells Sonic that if he goes and helps, he will never make it back to the Lady of the Lake in time and will fail the test, to which Sonic responds with,
Yeah, maybe, but I play by my own rules. Remember that.
Perfect. This just shows how deep-rooted Sonic's urge to help people is. He is willing to help people in need even if it means failing the tests. Anyway, we get through to the village and realise there isn't a dragon there anymore. We head back to the kid to tell her, and then it's revealed that the child is actually the Lady of the Lake in disguise, and she lied to Sonic to test his compassion, to which he succeeded. Because Sonic has completed the test, the Lady of the Lake explains how to defeat King Arthur. She explains that Sonic will need to collect the sacred swords of the Round Table. Their power combined with Caliburn's will be enough to defeat King Arthur. Once Sonic has all 3 swords, he fights King Arthur head on and uses the power of the sacred swords to defeat him. And that's it. For now. One thing I do want to pick up on is how entertaining the dialogue between Sonic and the Knights of the Round Table is. Their uptight and reserved manner just clashes completely with Sonic's free spirit and laid back attitude. It makes for some really entertaining cutscenes.
Lose to a mere apprentice! I have been disgraced! Only death can remove this stain upon my honor!
Give me a break! What's up with all this drama?
Silence! Silence, I say! A knight who fails their king is unfit to live!
Isn't there more to being a knight than just serving a king?
Huh?
I'm out of here. People to save, you know?
Now this plot on its own is fine, but after you defeat King Arthur is when the game really surprises you and flips everything around. But I will be talking about that in the ending section of this video. In this section I'm talking about the plot of the game from start to defeating King Arthur, and mainly just how well Sonic is characterized, along with how the game does a good job of world building.
Alright, time to find a blacksmith.
Something is wrong here.
Now story and theming are great, but at the end of the day the gameplay is arguably the most important aspect of a video game in most cases, and this is where the true controversy of this game lies, because as you may have noticed, Sonic is holding a sword, and he isn't holding one purely for the plot. No, this sword is fully integrated into the game and really is the backbone of the gameplay. This has been the defining aspect of the game that people use to argue that it's awful, but is it really? Well, firstly we need to address the somewhat gimmicky idea of the sword. We've seen this done time and time again in Dark Age games, where an unusual gimmick is added into the game seemingly out of nowhere to appeal to whatever's cool at the time. In Sonic 06 it was realistic graphics and a dark and gritty tone. In Sonic and the Secret Rings it was the motion controls that the Wii introduced, and in Sonic Unleashed it was the Werehog providing a beat 'em up gameplay style similar to something like God of War. Now there's no denying that this is just a thing that the Dark Age Sonic games have. They have seemingly random new gameplay styles implemented into the game, but I don't personally think on its own that's a bad thing. It only really hinders the game in my opinion if that unrelated gameplay style they've added in isn't actually fun and is shallow. Games like Sonic and the Secret Rings had shallow basic motion controls that were clearly added in just to appeal to the new motion control phase the Wii brought on, and they seriously hindered the game, which had a pretty unique and interesting concept. However, in a game like Sonic Unleashed, the Werehog was fully fleshed out and had depth. It was a fun gameplay style on its own, and could stand up against other games of the genre it was taking inspiration from. This opinion isn't necessarily popular though. For me, a Sonic game can have a completely different gameplay style and it doesn't bother me. I'm willing to try it, and in some cases it can actually work, like the Werehog in Unleashed or the treasure hunting stages in Sonic Adventure. Don't shoot me. But for some people, they aren't willing to give these unique gameplay styles a chance, and hey, who am I to say that's wrong? There is a clear general idea of what a Sonic game is, and these other gameplay styles completely strive away from that, which some people aren't cool with. They want a Sonic game with gameplay they expect. They aren't willing to buy into all this experimentation, and in recent times Sega doesn't do this so much. Sonic games have gameplay you would expect, and any other gameplay styles they implement don't strive too far from what people would expect from a Sonic game. However, like I said, I'm not one of those people. I kinda enjoyed the mystery of it in the Dark Age games. Who knew what would be in the next game? Sonic Team certainly showed they could be creative, and that brings us back round to Black Knight. Now Black Knight is a Wii game, and because of that, motion controls. They tried it with Secret Rings and it didn't really work that well, but in Black Knight they went with a different approach. What if the Wii remote was a sword? Strap a sword on Sonic, bam, Bob's your uncle. And a lot of people use this to take the piss, which I can't exactly properly argue with. Sonic wielding a sword clearly feels like a simple excuse to use the Wii remote as a sword, rather than a gameplay style Sonic Team thought deeply about and how it fits with the Sonic the Hedgehog brand. So yeah, the concept is out there, but the sword on Sonic really isn't that jarring when you play the game, as it's set in the world of King Arthur, full of knights anyway, and it's not a complete breakdown of tone like Shadow Manning a fucking MP40. The question is though, is the sword gameplay style any good? I've already established I'm willing to look past strange gameplay concepts in a Sonic game if they're actually fun to play and aren't just shallow. Well,
The answer is yes and no.
okay, let's start with the controls. I will say that in terms of movement, Sonic and the Black Knight is miles ahead of Sonic and the Secret Rings, all thanks to the new inclusion of the nunchuck, which gives us an actual analog stick to control Sonic. We can now move around the level and stop and start easily. It's still not fully normal controls like Sonic Adventure or something. Sonic can't turn around, he can only walk backwards, and when moving left and right he still kind of just sidesteps around the place. The controls are still very much automated, but compared to Secret Rings it feels great. So movement feels decent. It's still very restrictive compared to other games, but it's miles ahead of Secret Rings, and this game isn't trying to be a traditional Sonic game, so it works if the game is built around it. I will, however, say Sonic's jump and movement in the air feels very snappy and responsive. In Sonic and the Secret Rings, if you wanted to get an actual jump and not just a pathetic hop, then you would have to hold down the jump button and wait for Sonic to stop and charge up. In Black Knight, you just press A and you jump. No unnecessary stop and charge. It feels great. Sonic is fast and can get into the air quickly. He can also air boost way better as it's now mapped to an actual button. Another great inclusion which works with the game's implementation of combat is the long jump backwards. By holding the analog stick back and jumping, Sonic will hop backwards, which is great for jumping back to evade enemies' attacks, but can also help you quickly traverse back to an earlier part of the level if you want to, which is way quicker than just tiptoeing back on the ground. Okay, now let's address the elephant in the room. The sword. This is an integral part of the game that you will be using like it or not. So firstly, the idea of using the Wii remote as a sword isn't as intricate as you might think. This isn't like a PlayStation Move controller or something that can pretty accurately follow your hand movements and give you full control. Put simply, the Wii remote's motion hardware isn't good enough. What it actually essentially equates to is swinging the Wii remote to swing the sword. That's as simple as it is. It doesn't matter if you swing from the left, the right, down or up, Sonic will just swing the sword one way. So the swing of the Wii remote acts more like a swing button rather than a literal sword you can wield and control in game. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that the swordplay is bad. While there's no intricacy within the actual motion controls, there is some depth to the combat. Sonic has a 3-hit combo, so if you swing the Wii remote consecutively 3 times you get a combo swing, which is great for taking out large amount of enemies while keeping the pace going. Sonic also can swing his sword in the air to essentially go into a ball and swing the sword vigorously. This is a great move for taking down stronger enemies, however it can slow the pace down. However, this attack is used best with the homing attack, and I say homing attack with quotations, so technically Sonic does have the homing attack in this game. It's never used like it is in the other Sonic games, where the level design needs you to, or at least heavily incentivizes you to homing attack, but it is there. If you jump near an enemy and press the jump button again, Sonic will rocket towards them, but he doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't deal any damage, it just bounces off them, and that is where the aerial attack is really at its best. If you jump, do a homing attack, and as you head towards the enemy swing the Wii remote, Sonic will mow through his enemies incredibly quickly, and this move is extremely satisfying. Sonic just plows through his enemies, making mincemeat of them. However, this move isn't great for larger enemies as you leave yourself open to being grabbed. Sonic also has a block by pressing the Z button, which again is another useful inclusion. While the game is fast paced, there are enemies that act fast and will swing at you. The block allows you to parry their attacks and take them down. Now all of this isn't overly intricate, but there is some depth depth there, and combining the different types of attacks for different enemies and environments is satisfying. And there is also the soul gauge. The soul gauge fills up by collecting red fairies, which is sometimes given to you after defeating enemies. Your soul gauge will over time build up, and when you activate it with B, time slows down and allows Sonic to get critical hits on enemies. If the soul gauge is done in the air, then Sonic essentially has a traditional homing attack, hopping from enemy to enemy, slicing through them. Only difference is time is slowed down. If there are no enemies in the way, then the soul gauge is essentially a huge boost, which will blast you forward at an incredible speed. Using it as a boost is only really good in very certain scenarios. You can't blast through enemies, so you're completely vulnerable. The boost is just too fast in my opinion and just uncontrollable. You can barely control Sonic, and it only really works when you have a long stretch of land to run through with no enemies, which is a rare scenario in this game. However, as an attack it works much better. It slows down time so drastically I wouldn't say it's very good for mowing down groups of enemies, as it just stops the pace and you have other attacks that can take care of them more efficiently. However, when facing with larger enemies, the soul gauge works great as it allows you to get critical strikes on them. I do think that it is just a bit too slow since the rest of the game's combat is so fast, and it's kind of jarring to go from high speeds to super slow-mo attack, but on a whole the move is still very good. There is also grinding. Grinding is in this game. It's used pretty much more sparingly than the previous storybook game Secret Rings, but it is here. You can't switch between grind rails. Once you're on one, you're on there until you're off, but you can swing your sword on there to take out enemies, and also can hop left and right to speed up dramatically. Grinding is okay. It feels a bit forced. I'm glad it's here for the spectacle and because it looks cool, but as a player you don't do much at all. It would have been better if the game had you switch between rails or had you dealing with more enemies or something, but as it is, it's just extremely scripted. There is also one other aspect of the combat that I need to mention: the styles. So throughout the game you can pick from one of 3 styles for Sonic. The first is the Knight style, which provides a balance between power and speed while placing an emphasis in the Soul Surge, allowing you to build up the meter quicker. The second style is a Cavalier style, which gives Sonic faster movement speed while lowering the strength of his attacks. And the final style is the Paladin style, which grants the player stronger attacks but at the cost of slower movement. Each of these styles can change how the combat feels slightly, adding some variety to the combat and giving the player a choice on how they want to play the game. I absolutely love that the game does this. The different styles don't drastically overhaul the game. The combat is still the same Black Knight combat, but it just adds a bit of different flavour to things. It's not enough to change the gameplay drastically, but enough to keep things fresh. So overall, I feel the controls of Sonic and the Black Knight are not bad at all. In fact, I think they're quite good. Yeah, the movement can feel a bit restrictive, but aside from that, things feel snappy and responsive, and the combat has depth, despite what some people may tell you. However, the combat has one fatal flaw that is an issue, and I'm willing to bet the main reason people label this game as shallow and just a wagglefest. Because despite all of that intricacy I've just described with the combat, despite the different styles, the soul gauge, the swing combos, the aerial attacks, despite all that, the game's main levels can essentially be beaten by just doing this constantly. Yes, and this is the game's biggest downfall, because the intricacy of the combat is never pushed towards the player. Now I know I'm really taking the piss by comparing Black Knight to Ghost of Tsushima, but I've been playing it loads recently and just hear me out. The combat in Ghost of Tsushima has a certain level of depth, and throughout the game as it gets harder you are gradually forced to learn the game's combat and get better, otherwise you will die. If you try and complete Ghost of Tsushima by just spamming the square button, you will not get very far. But that's what Black Knight feels like. There is some depth and intricacy to the combat, especially when trying to not only take out enemies but keep moving at a fast pace, but you can also just play through the game swinging the Wii remote like a fucking maniac. There are no in-depth tutorials to show you the combat aside from the initial swing the Wii remote to swing your sword, and a few challenges on using the soul gauge. I found the intricacy within the combat because I'm purposefully digging deep into the game's mechanics for this video, but many people will have simply just finished the game not even realising that there is so much more the combat has to offer. There are exceptions in the game where you do have to use the swordplay with actual depth, like some of the cave levels and the boss fights with the Knights of the Round Table and the Second Dragon, but a large majority of the game can just be waggled through. And with that, I'm kinda stuck on whether I think the combat of Black Knight is good. I feel Sonic Team did put serious thought into creating a gameplay style that combines high speed with swordplay, and there is depth there to sink your teeth into, but at the same time I feel Sonic Team completely failed to incentivize the player to learn the combat and have enemies actually challenge the player. So if you're going to play Black Knight, don't just waggle the Wii remote. Take some time to actually learn the combat and think about your attacks, because there is depth there and it will pay off as the game is a lot more fun. But all this talk of waggling and motion controls is annoying. As I said before, the Wii Remote Swing essentially just acts as a button in the game, so it begs the question, can you play the game with a GameCube controller or a Wii Classic controller? No. Sonic Team decided that this is a waggle only experience. However, I can't help feel that this game really could have easily worked on a standard gamepad. So I got in touch with my good friend pointing out the obvious, who I know plays Sonic and the Black Knight on an emulator with a DualShock 4. So who better person than him to tell you how the game actually works with a standard gamepad.
Sonic the Black Knight, which is known for its motion controls, usually has the biggest critique of, man, it'd be better if it was with a controller. While personally, I don't mind the waggle motions of the control, I have been playing Sonic the Black Knight on an emulator, don't tell Sega or Nintendo, and I use a PS4 controller, because I don't really have Wiimotes to just throw around anymore. So, how is it with a PS4 controller? Well, it depends on what you like. The thing is, what I do is that I change the sword slashes to be square, because on the Dolphin emulator you can have it as a shake, and I have the directional movement just be my left stick, and I have also the slash to be my R stick, and I usually alternate between the two depending on how I'm feeling at that exact moment. I could just mash square, but if I want something a little bit more precise, I could use the R stick. See, this does depend on how you actually enjoy games. See, if you don't like just pressing one button or just waggling the R stick and you can't get enjoyment out of that, then I'm sorry, it's not for you. I personally find it really fun, and it controls really well on a PS4 controller with the R stick and the square button. Also, you probably don't know this, but you could map the buttons for the nunchuck on L2, and you probably really don't know this, but on the nunchuck, the Z button, there's this move you could do which is a kick. Yeah, no one knows that move exists, so be sure when you set up the controls to make sure to put Z to something, because it's actually a move. And it is required for some of the extra missions. The game just never tells you you have this move. Very Sonic writers of it. But yeah, PS4 controller or Xbox controller, it does work and it is fun. So if you like Sonic the Black Knight but you hate waggling your arm around, then you'd probably enjoy it. But if you don't like Sonic and the Black Knight to begin with, and you feel that the level design's too linear and that the waggling is just too tiring, but also just kind of boring to do because you don't find the combat too interesting, then yeah, no, this isn't going to convince you that it's better. But if you are a Sonic the Black Knight fan, I do recommend, if the Wii remote's just too much for you, pick up a PS4 controller, put in, and just play it on Dolphin. And thanks for Lemon for having me on this video.
Thanks to Kendall for coming onto the channel. Make sure to check him out. There'll be a card on the top right of the screen now, as well as a link in the description to his channel. And actually, while I've got you guys here, before we carry on with the video, if you enjoy what you've seen so far, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. We're less than 150 subs away from 1k, and it would really help out a small channel like mine if you did. Right now, a whopping 97.8% of you aren't subscribed, so if you do sub, it would really mean a lot to me. And if you're part of that 1.9% that are already subscribed, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Okay, back to Black Knight. Okay, now this section is likely going to be pretty short. Level design. This really isn't the strongest aspect of this game. Level design isn't frustrating, it's not necessarily poorly designed, and the theming of the levels are great, with some really iconic set pieces. The only thing is the linearity, because my god, this game is one of the most linear games I have ever played. Many people try and dig on colours or generations boost levels for being a straightforward corridor with no diverting paths. Looking at it critically, that's not true. The levels may not have as many paths as the adventure games, but there are definitely different routes to take throughout the levels, but Sonic and the Black Knight literally is a one-path game. I can literally recall about 2 times in the whole game where a level splits off into 2 paths, and even then it's very quickly back to the main path. The levels are like a roller coaster. There is a set track where Sonic will go. The linearity is incredibly blatant, but that doesn't necessarily make the level design bad. While the levels are linear, they are still typically quite fun. Nowhere near to the level of the booster adventure games, but there's definitely fun to be had. There is platforming challenges, springs, boost pads and grind rails, all the staples of a traditional Sonic game, even if they appear and work a bit differently. But most notably, these straight line levels are filled to the brim with Knights of the Underworld to slash through, and well, call me a sucker for fast paced action, but it is incredibly satisfying to mow through enemies. The game is just the right length so that it doesn't get too boring, at least when going for a standard playthrough. The boss fights are designed differently. The fights with King Arthur take place constantly running forward. You dodge his attacks, catch up to him and deal your blows. This sounds a bit tedious, but King Arthur's attacks are challenging enough and have enough variety that things stay fresh. Plus the fight just looks cool. Another boss style are the dragons. In the game you take on 2 dragons. These take place stationary and you essentially just dodge the dragon's attacks, get in close and swing your sword. These are okay, but them being still really showcase how when Sonic isn't continually moving, his movement really is quite stiff. And lastly, there are the fights against the Knights of the Round Table. These are the best fights in the game in my opinion, as they actually push the player to utilise the combat properly instead of just waggling the Wii remote senselessly like you're trying to get your fucking Wii off. You actually have to block and counter attack and dodge, it's great, and for anyone who has been going through the game just waggling, these fights are sure to stop you in your tracks. Overall, level design is a tricky one. The levels for the most part are fun and filled with enemies and set pieces, but they're just excruciatingly linear. There's virtually no room to delve off the main track. The levels can be fun, but you need to go in and not expect the typical Sonic level. If you can get past the linearity, I do think the levels can be enjoyed for what they are, and the great theming, interesting set pieces and large amounts of enemies ensure the levels never truly get too dull.
Hey, this could be helpful. Let's hitch a ride.
A wagon ride wouldn't be bad.
The graphics of Sonic and the Black Knight are one of the strongest aspects of the game in my opinion. With the previous game released before Black Knight being Sonic Unleashed, which is just fucking stunning, there was no way Black Knight could ever compete as it was stuck on the severely underpowered Nintendo Wii. However, for what it is, this game can be drop dead gorgeous sometimes. Using the PhysX engine that was previously used for Sonic and the Secret Rings along with Sonic Unleashed Wii port, the game is very good looking for the Wii. One thing to bear in mind is I am playing the game on Wii U, so the game is upscaled to HD, but even on a traditional Wii console with AV, the game still looks great. As I said in the beginning of the video, the game goes through a much more grittier art style to fit with the theme of King Arthur's world. In the CGI opening, cutscenes and promotional material, the world was portrayed well, but when we talk about actual in-game footage, you may think that the game would have fell flat on its face because the Nintendo Wii is not traditionally great with realistic style graphics and works much better with stylized games like Mario Galaxy. But Sonic and the Black Knight looks very nice. It finds the perfect blend between gritty realism with mystical stylization. Misty Lake looks great with the fog looming over the level, the grey sky, the woodland all around Sonic and the ancient buildings that appear to be overgrown and worn down. Camelot Castle is one of the best levels in the game in terms of theming and spectacle. Running into the town feels impactful and daunting as the large grey buildings surround Sonic, and when we get some air in the level we can see just how big the castle spans. The deep woods feel mysterious and enchanting, feeling very secluded from any kind of society, with trees looming over Sonic as light seeps through. Crystal Cave feels magic with the dark tight caves lit up by the warm glow of the crystals all around you. Molten Mine feels dangerous and unstable with the bright red flames surrounding the crumbly paths to the old mine track, and Titanic Monarch. My god, what a truly drop dead gorgeous level. The seemingly infinite stretches of grassy fields mixed with the bright blue sky is truly something else. The level looks so vast and big. It's a shame that you can't actually run through these fields at your own pace and instead follow a very linear path as always. The game is just a very good looking game for the Wii. Sonic's character model looks great with a deep rich blue and a very subtle hint of grittiness and dirt to match with the game's world. Enemies look menacing and detailed, and bosses like the Knights of the Round Table and King Arthur are modelled very well too. Overall, Sonic Team truly has done an exceptional job of truly utilising all of the Wii hardware and creating a truly stunning stylised world for you to run through that feels so rich and vast. The music in this game goes hand in hand with the amazing graphics as well. Each track seemingly adds another layer of depth to the stages and creates so much more emotion. For example, the Misty Lake theme perfectly captures the mystery of the area, with a mix of violin and moderately paced drum beat to perfectly capture the inquisitiveness of the player in this strange new world. or the sharp and abrupt guitar strums in Camelot Castle's theme, giving off a feeling of danger but also simultaneously pumping the player up to explore this new vast area and take on anyone in their way. And I can't forget Crush 40 coming back after Secret Rings and absolutely smashing it out the park with that main theme, Night of the Wind. The soundtrack of this game truly is the final puzzle piece that goes hand in hand with the graphics to make the world feel so lush and alive.
Well done. And thank you, Sonic.
Okay, now this is the section of the video where I talk about the ending of this game. I'm going to be fully spoiling the ending of the game here, so if you haven't played Black Knight and want to experience the story blind, which I recommend you do, skip to this time in the video now, okay? Alright, you've been warned. So I touched originally in the story section of this video that the story of Black Knight has a sudden twist. Up until now the story has just been defeat King Arthur and free the kingdom, pretty simple. So we collect all 3 sacred swords and head for King Arthur. A fight ensues which is actually quite challenging and one of the few instances in this game where the game actually incentivizes you to slow down and not just waggle the Wiimote mindlessly. When it's your turn to attack King Arthur, you can just waggle the Wiimote as fast as you can to get as many hits as possible, but if you slow down and pace your attacks out, striking when your sword glows, you'll get critical strikes and actually drain his health faster than just swinging the Wiimote as fast as you can. Anyway, the fight is a solid fight. It's grand and challenging. It feels like a suitable final boss fight. So you kill King Arthur and then credits. Everything seems to be over, but after the credits play, we get this cutscene. King Arthur just puffs away into purple smoke like one of the knights of the underworld you've been fighting this whole game, which makes no sense as King Arthur is a real guy. That shouldn't have happened. Anyway, Sonic heads back to Melina with the scabbard and I'm just going to let this next cutscene play out so you can see for yourself what happens.
You! How did you come by that scabbard? Where is the king?
Wait.
This was all he left after he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Just like one of the knights of the underworld.
There was never any King Arthur.
Huh?
Well done. And thank you, Sonic. With this scabbard, I can erase my grandfather's greatest mistake.
What?
shall make this kingdom eternal.
Sonic, get back!
Melina betrays us. She's been using us the whole time. She never cared about saving the kingdom, she just wanted to control it herself. She's been using us the whole game, and King Arthur was just an illusion she created. I honestly think this is one of the best plotlines in any Sonic game, because I feel Melina was purposefully written throughout the game to just be a bit off. Hell, I even said earlier in the video when I was younger there was something about Melina I didn't like. She just wasn't as warm as other sidekicks like Chip or even Caliburn. The game even foreshadows Melina's betrayal and desire for eternity early on, when Sonic catches her in her fields looking at a dead flower. Melina uses the power of the scabbard to begin to control all of the kingdom. Sonic and his friends narrowly escape the crumbling castle in a fucking cool CGI cutscene and a tense level. They meet up outside the castle grounds where Sonic is again written perfectly and true to his character. The Knights of the Round Table are willing to give up and think they're doomed, but Sonic perseveres and doesn't give up.
What? Are you gonna give up just like that? Is that the best that chivalry of yours can do?
How dare you!
Listen, it's like I said before. Isn't there more to being a knight than serving a king?
Sir Sonic is right. And there's still time if you act now. Use the sacred swords to form a barrier around the castle.
For the kingdom and its people!
For the kingdom and its people!
I'm counting on you.
Sir Sonic, what will you do?
Once the barrier's up, I'll look for a chance to jump in.
Surely you jest.
Nah, it's just how I roll.
Fare thee well. We too shall fulfill our appointed task.
What an amazing cutscene. Sonic's character is truly at its peak in this game. So the plan: use the 4 sacred swords to create a barrier around the castle grounds to seal Melina's dark magic, and then Sonic will go in to put a stop to her. What follows are some of the best levels in the game. These are the levels of the game where there is actual challenge and the player has to actually think on how best to attack. Shadow tackles the deep woods, but this time the area is covered in snow and there's much more in his way. The level is great and a true test of everything you've learnt in the game. Knuckles tackles Titanic Monarch, but this time it's at night, and that already beautiful level is just breathtaking at night. Knuckles storms enemy bases and everything about the level feels so grand. Blaze heads for Molten Mine and storms through the fiery depths in a truly tense level where everything is so busy. And lastly, Sonic storms through the caves and takes on a truly tough boss fight in the second dragon. Each of these levels feel made with care and truly test the player. Nothing feels rushed and it all works perfectly. Anyway, Sonic and the Knights of the Round Table create a barrier, but the Lady of the Lake discovers that the barrier is too weak and the dark magic is spreading. Sonic heads into Melina anyway to try and stop her. Knowing the odds are against him, what follows is a truly exceptional Sonic the Hedgehog cutscene, and I'm just going to show you the whole thing because it's just that good.
I've been expecting you.
Just one question before we settle this. Why'd you do it? Weren't we trying to save this kingdom from the underworld?
This kingdom will fail one way or another. Such is its fate.
Huh?
Do you know what is to become of this kingdom?
Beats me.
Lancelot and Gawain's rift shall doom the Round Table. Arthur is struck down by his son Mordred and departs for Avalon. This was to be our ideal world, but it will not last. King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table will end in ruin. The King Arthur my grandfather Merlin created led to nothing but mistakes. But I can succeed with the power of the scabbard, creating a kingdom that never ends.
that is a world that goes on forever.
My sorrow at its ruin runs deeper than the depths of the underworld. Do you not understand?
No, and I don't want to.
Your efforts are futile.
No way.
You fool! Knight must always be on his guard!
It is time to end this.
Sir Sonic, you've done enough!
No, Sonic! There is no point in continuing!
A knight never flees his foe, right? Ah!
You fool! This no longer has anything to do with chivalry! Get out of there! Run!
It was never about chivalry for me. I just gotta do what I've gotta do. That's all. Sonic!
The long-lost light of the sacred sword! Quick, your swords!
Fucking brilliant. My god, Sonic is written perfectly. Even when his sword is broken, he still wouldn't give up. He was using every last bit of energy he had to fight for what's right. Following this incredible transformation is an epic fight against Merlina with some great music.
I'm here to prove it all to you. I am.
The fight is similar to most modern Sonic games' final boss. Limited controls, dodge attacks and strike at the right time. It's not overly difficult, but it does utilise critical attacks, and some of the attacks Merlina has will hit you if you're not paying attention. The spectacle of the fight is great. The dialogue between Merlina and Sonic starts off with Merlina staying cocky, saying she cannot be beat, but throughout the fight we see her begin to falter until she is screaming at Sonic while Sonic just stays fucking chill as always. Anyway, we take down Merlina and win the fight. What follows is another excellent Sonic cutscene.
Merlina, every world has its end. I know that's kind of sad, but that's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have. At least, that's what I figure.
Grandfather.
Well done, Sir Sonic.
Thanks to you guys.
You can say that again.
To think King Arthur was but an illusion.
The Knights of the Round Table must now disband.
What foolishness is this?
I'll say.
What are you saying then?
Have you forgotten who I am? I am the sacred sword Caliburn. I am the one who decides who is worthy of the crown.
So then, you? You are the one and true King Arthur?
Me? Huh? Hey, cut that out!
And with that, the game's finished. What a truly grand finale. Sonic's characterization is perfect, and the words he spoke to Melina truly have meaning. The ending of this game, hand on heart I can say, is my second favourite Sonic game ending, number 1 being Unleashed. The grand conclusion just felt so epic, and the stakes truly felt high. That mixed with the twist of the final boss being the very person that asked for your help in the first place, it's glorious. Sonic and the Black Knight has an amazing ending and solidifies Black Knight's plot as a truly exceptional one. Everything from the music to the fight to the world to the characterization of Sonic is top tier. Many modern Sonic games now have endings that feel so rushed, like Lost Worlds and Forces. The games just kinda stop and it's really anticlimactic. But Black Knight, regardless of what you think of the gameplay, really is an example of how to do an ending of a Sonic game right.
That's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have. At least, that's what I figure.
And with that, we have finished Sonic and the Black Knight. What a ride. The game is definitely a unique one, and one of the most out there Sonic games, but I can honestly say I really did enjoy my time with the game. Sonic and the Black Knight has an amazing story, excellent graphics, great theming, an incredible soundtrack, and pretty fun gameplay. However, the game is held back by slightly clunky controls at times, a failure to showcase to the player the intricacy of the combat and push them to get better at the game, and most of all, extremely linear level design. So is Sonic and the Black Knight actually a bad game? No, far from it. Its concept is pretty gimmicky, I'll give you that, but the game is far from bad. I'd say it's a very good game. Is it perfect? No. It does have some issues, and it isn't on the same level of games like Unleashed or the adventure games, but I would still say it's a very solid Sonic game, and if you're looking for games to play in the franchise, Black Knight would definitely be one of the games I would recommend checking out. But what do you think? Did you play Black Knight when it came out? Did you like it? Are you interested in trying it after this video? Let me know down below. If you've made it this far to the video, thanks for watching, and sorry for the long gap between this video and my last upload. Personal life just got a bit busy. The wait won't be as long for my next video, I promise. This has been Lemon, and I'll see you all hopefully soon. Take care.